You mutter under your breath when you lose your keys. You narrate your own cooking. You rehearse an argument in the shower with someone who isn't there. You've done this today. Maybe you're doing it right now, quietly, without noticing. Most people assume this is a quirk, a small glitch in an otherwise silent mind. But the real answer is far stranger. Your inner voice is not a glitch. It is a survival tool. It is one of the oldest pieces of technology your species ever built, and it was never meant to stay inside your head. Think about the last time you talked yourself through something hard. Maybe you said, "Okay, just breathe," before a meeting. Maybe you said, "Come on, almost there," while carrying something heavy. That voice feels private, personal, yours alone. But it has a history that stretches back further than language itself, and it was born out of a problem your ancestors could not solve any other way. Here is the problem. 2 million years ago, a hominin standing on the African savanna had a brain that was growing faster than its body could keep up with. More neurons, more connections, more raw processing power aimed at a single, brutal question. How do I not die today? There were predators. There was unpredictable weather. There was the constant math of finding food before the food finds a way to disappear. And there was something else, something almost nobody talks about. There was the problem of the self. A creature with a simple brain does not need to manage itself. It reacts. It sees a threat, it runs. It sees food, it eats. But a creature with a complex brain, a brain capable of imagining tomorrow, capable of remembering yesterday, capable of picturing outcomes that have not happened yet, has a new kind of job. It has to supervise its own mind. That is where your inner voice comes from, not from wanting to talk, from needing to manage. The psychologist Lev Vygotsky spent years studying how children develop language, and he noticed something that seems almost too simple to matter. Young children talk out loud to themselves constantly while they play or solve problems. Not to communicate with anyone, just to narrate. The red block goes here. No, that's wrong. Try the blue one. Vygotsky called this private speech, and he argued it wasn't random noise. It was the child's way of using language as a tool to guide their own actions, borrowed directly from the way adults had spoken to them. Here's the part that reframes everything. Vygotsky believed this out-loud self-talk doesn't disappear as we grow up. It goes underground. It becomes silent. It becomes what you now call thinking. Say that again, slower. What you call thinking, the quiet stream of words running through your head right now, may not be some separate, higher function that appeared out of nowhere. It may be speech that turned inward. A conversation you once had out loud with a parent, a caregiver, the world around you, folded inside your skull and kept running for the rest of your life. Your ancestors did not evolve to think in silence. They evolved to think out loud, together, and only later learned to do it quietly, alone. Picture it. Not a single hunter alone in the grass, but a group of them, moving together, coordinating a hunt without walkie-talkies, without hand signals sophisticated enough for every possible situation. Words are the original coordination software. Go left. Wait. Now. Language let a group of relatively weak, slow, clawless apes take down animals 10 times their size because they could plan together in real time. Now imagine one of those hunters, alone, tracking an animal at dusk, far from the group. No one talked to, but the brain doesn't switch off the tool it just spent hundreds of thousands of years building. So the hunter talks to himself. It went this way. Careful. Slow down. The same coordination software, the same tool built for managing a group, gets repurposed to manage a group of one. This is the twist almost nobody expects. Self-talk isn't a downgrade from real conversation. It's the same machinery, aimed inward because evolution rarely deletes a tool that still works. It just finds a second use for it. There's real data behind this, not just theory. The psychologist Charles Fernyhough, who has spent much of his career researching inner speech, found that most adults experience some form of verbal inner monologue, and that this inner voice tends to spike exactly when people are doing something difficult. Planning a route, working through a hard decision, rehearsing what to say before a difficult conversation. Your brain reaches for language precisely when the stakes go up, the same way it would have reached for a spoken word to a hunting partner 200,000 years ago. And there's a study that makes this almost impossible to ignore. Researchers Gary Lupyan and Daniel Swingley ran an experiment where they had people talk to themselves out loud while searching for an object, saying its name, versus searching in silence. The people who spoke the object's name out loud found it faster. Saying keys while looking for your keys is not a nervous habit. It is your ancient coordination tool, sharpening your own attention, the exact same way it once sharpened a hunting party's aim. So why does it feel private now? Why does it feel like a secret, almost embarrassing thing, catching yourself moving your lips in an empty room? Because somewhere along the way, talking to yourself out loud stopped being useful and started being risky. Here's the part your ancestors would have understood instantly, and you might not. For most of human history, you were rarely alone in a way that mattered. You lived in small bands. Everyone could hear everyone. There was no real privacy, and there was very little reason to hide your thinking because the group needed to know what you were thinking. A hunter who muttered his plan out loud was giving his group free information they could use. But somewhere in the last few thousand years, something changed. Groups got bigger. Strangers got more common. Competition, status, secrecy, all of it became survival relevant in a new way. A person who said everything they were thinking out loud all the time became vulnerable, exposed, predictable to rivals. So the voice went quiet. Not gone, quiet. This is where the story gets almost eerie. Brain imaging research has shown that when people engage in silent inner speech, the same brain regions light up that activate when they speak out loud, particularly areas involved in producing language. Your brain is still doing the work of speaking. It is still activating the machinery of your mouth, your throat, your breath, sometimes literally sending faint signals to those muscles, even though no sound comes out. You are, in a very real sense, still talking. You've just learned to mute the microphone. Think about what that means. Every time you have a silent argument with yourself in the shower, some ancient part of your nervous system is running the same program your ancestor ran while planning a hunt out loud with his tribe. The content is different. The wiring is identical. And this explains something strange about stress. Have you ever noticed that when you're overwhelmed, tired, or under real pressure, the silent voice starts leaking out? You catch yourself actually speaking the words instead of just thinking them. Where did I put it? Come on, think. That's not you losing control. That's your inner voice reverting to its original, older form, the out loud version, because the quiet version takes more effort to maintain, and under stress your brain reaches for whatever tool worked first. Children do this constantly, and it isn't a sign of anything wrong with them. It's a sign the tool hasn't finished migrating inward yet. Vygotsky watched this exact developmental arc, out loud, then muttering, then finally fully silent, and it plays out in almost every child, everywhere, regardless of culture or language. Here's the modern mirror, the part that connects all of this back to your life right now. You live in a world engineered to be quiet. Open offices with unspoken rules against talking to yourself. Headphones in public, signaling, "Don't interrupt my inner monologue." An entire culture that treats out loud self-talk as a mild symptom of something being wrong. But the urge never left. It's still there, underneath every silent sentence running through your mind, a 2 million-year-old survival tool, doing exactly the job it was built to do, just with the volume turned down. There is even research suggesting that people who use their inner voice more deliberately, coaching themselves through tasks the way you might coach a friend, perform measurably better under pressure. Athletes are trained to do this on purpose. So are surgeons. So are pilots. The instruction is almost always the same. Talk to yourself like you would talk to your hunting partner. Give yourself the plan out loud, or as close to out loud as you can get. So the next time you catch yourself muttering while searching for your keys, or narrating your own cooking, or running a silent argument on a walk you take alone, you are not being strange. You are running the oldest software your species ever built. A tool made for a hunter who needed a partner and sometimes had to be his own. You mutter under your breath when you lose your keys. You narrate your own cooking. You rehearse an argument in the shower with someone who isn't there. And now you know why. It It was never a glitch. It was never you talking to no one. It was you doing what your ancestors did on the savanna 200,000 years ago, using the only tool that could keep a fragile, clever animal alive long enough to become you.